Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is Rankings Day, and we are now in the afternoon of Rankings Day, which means we're on to the running backs and then the wide receivers a little bit later. This is going to be different than the videos from this morning, quarterbacks and tight ends, which you can go and watch those at any time. They're obviously up on the channel. Subscribe to get notifications every Wednesday for all of the videos. They all come out on Wednesday. In this video, for the running backs video, it's a little bit different than the quarterbacks and the tight ends because it takes me longer to do the projections for them. There's a lot more of having to massage like the types of usage expectations based on all of the injuries. So it just takes a lot longer and there's a lot more stats to put in, thousands of them. So what I do in these videos is I start with the ECR, which is the expert consensus ranking from fantasypros.com, and then I move players around. I got these on Tuesday, so sometimes players can be all over the place depending on expectations if they will play or not. Sometimes players may not be on here that are going to end up playing, sometimes big names. So obviously there will be changes, and especially once I get my projections done, some players will shoot up or down. Sometimes players that I'm thinking of moving, sometimes players that I'm talking about, sometimes not. So if you want to see my projections, they go up on Thursday, tomorrow, at www.theFFforge.com. Link down in the description. These are my temporary projections to get something out to you. I stand by everything that I say as far as reasonings on the players that I'm going to be talking about, and I even stand by this set of projections just fine. But they are not my final set of, this set of rankings. These are not projections. And quite honestly, I lost my train of thought there. Don't recall exactly where I left off, but I think I pretty much ended the explanation on these being temporary, not my finalized rankings. Go up, see them on the website. And if you want to see my final rankings, you can come visit me on Sunday, 1 hour before kickoff. I'll be here. You are welcome to come by and ask me any start-sit questions that you have, or just take a quick peek at my rankings. I do try to get those up on the website as well Sunday morning. I make some changes first before I create my sheet that I'll end up putting on here. But sometimes I'm still doing little alterations right up until kickoff, really. It's all possible, especially once this injury report comes in at an hour and a half before kickoff, 11:30. The only other thing to know here is this is the difficulty. This is is the matchup good, green, bad, red, neutral, white? That simple. So let's start off with my RB1s this week. Starting off at number 1, I have Austin Ekeler. Thinking this should be a great week for him, especially with some of the injuries on the offense there for the Chargers. Then Aaron Jones I have at number 2, Derrick Henry at 3, Josh Jacobs 4, Joe Mixon 5, Alvin Kamara 6, Travis Etienne Jr. at 7, Ramondre Stevenson is my 8th ranked running back, Kenneth Walker at 9, Miles Sanders at 10, Raheem Mostert at 11, and DeAndre Swift at 12. And I will be talking about the players who I have the most places above the current ECR or below the current ECR, which you can see right here how different I am on all of these players. Let's talk about Miles Sanders, who I have ranked 10th going up against Houston. The ECRM is 14, so I'm 4 spots higher than the ECR. Will he finish top 10? Maybe not, but this comes from a comfort level of playing him in an excellent matchup. Yeah, give me those guaranteed, not bust type of game here, I guess, for Miles Sanders. I feel comfortable with him, and there is nothing wrong with leaving a couple points on the board from a Jonathan Taylor who finally pops off compared to just knowing that I'm not going to get 6 points from a Jonathan Taylor who's been doing stuff like that this season. I don't know that low, but you get the idea. Now, on to Raheem Mostert, who is going up against Chicago. I have him 5 spots ahead of the ECR. I have him at 11th. The ECR is 16th. Expect Miami to be fine against the Chicago defense, who's lost a few big players. So I expect it to be a lot doughier of a Chicago defense for him to run right on through. So I like that, and give me the touchdown potential there. Miami just got rid of Chase Edmonds, added Jeff Wilson. I don't know that changes much in his usage this week, but if anything, a couple extra downs that he'll be on the field would be the expectation. So all the better. Let's move on to the RB2s, where I will be behind the ECR and a few players. Starting off at my running back 13 with Dalvin Cook, followed by Dameon Pierce, Leonard Fournette, Jonathan Taylor, Jamal Williams, Tyler Algier, Deonta Foreman, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, Devin Singletary, Brian Robinson Jr., Antonio Gibson. Right up the top here at 13 with Dalvin Cook, I have him 6 spots behind the ECR. The ECR is 7 on him, going up against Washington. That is the second best run defense in the league as far as going off my memory, but top 3 rushing defense in the league. So very tough there. Love the update in Minnesota. They got TJ Hawkinson. I think that will help the team a lot. But still going to be, I think, a game where they're going to win through the air first. And so Dalvin Cook, I'm sure, will have a fine game, a near RB1 type game. But there are some concerns as to the upside in that game. Expect him to be limited. Hopefully falls in for a touchdown, maybe more would be excellent. But just there's a ceiling with other players that are like more. That said, DeAndre Swift might have to move back a spot, which would obviously, moving forward, there are obviously some concerns with DeAndre Swift's usage. I heard a quote last night from the coach about him getting too much usage with his 10 touches in week 1 there for him coming back. So last week, not week 1. So a little bit of concerns that the coach felt that was too much. Is that because he was sore on Monday, or, why is that? But I do expect it to increase regardless. Just still, maybe he'd be more riskier of a play right now. Now on to Jonathan Taylor, who I have a 16th. The ECR is 6 spots behind the ECR. Jonathan Taylor owners know that he hasn't been performing up to the average ranking. That's just the facts of the matter. My projections have, for several weeks now, have had him back in this range, so I expect that to happen again. Didn't do anything last week to make him look, a whole lot better by the numbers, I'm sure. So, not a great matchup there against New England. Just got to trust what's been put on paper at this point in the season. And so Jonathan Taylor is not that RB1 that we were hoping for, unfortunately. Now on to Devin Singletary, who I have 4 spots ahead of the ECR. The ECR is 18. I have him at 22nd, going up against the New York Jets. Not a great matchup, not the worst matchup in the world. Of course, we know that Buffalo rushing attack is unpredictable anyways. They have been involving James Cook more as of late, and on top of that, they just traded for Nyheim Hines, got rid of Zach Moss, so do expect that to probably James Cook might not get used as much. Who knows, though? Buffalo does all sorts of things. They're going to sprinkle in Nyheim Hines. How much does that end up affecting Devin Singletary compared to how we've seen his usage lately? I don't know, but it's a potentially bad spot, and there are just some players who have some better matchups who I will take. So let's move on to my RB3s. We're starting off at the running back 25. I have Michael Carter, followed by A.J. Dillon, Eno Benjamin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kenyon Drake, Caleb Huntley, Damian Harris, Nyheim Hines, Dontrell Hilliard, Isaiah Pacheco, Darrell Henderson Jr., and Gus Edwards to wrap that up at RB36. Starting off with Michael Carter, who I have 4 spots behind the ECR, going up against Buffalo. I have him at 25. The ECR is 21 on him. It's not a great matchup. I expect the New York Jets offense to struggle this week, so I have him outside of my RB2s. That's simple. As far as Caleb Huntley goes, I have him 4 spots ahead of the ECR. I have him at 30. ECR is 34. This is very much dependent upon Cordero Patterson returning. Same with Tyler Algier. Both of them would be moved backwards if Cordero Patterson is coming back and playing, and then that would just depend on the news about his return and what we can expect with that, depending on how far these guys would be moving back. But Caleb Huntley going up against the Los Angeles Chargers, it is a good matchup on the ground. We saw his usage increase yet again to where it was pre-week 7 last week, and he's been more efficient than Tyler Algier on the ground, and pretty much every week that he's played. So I expect, if it's just those two again, that Caleb Huntley once again could have a decent, solid game here. Now on to Dontrell Hilliard, who I have 7 spots ahead of the ECR. The ECR is 40, but I have him at 33, going up against Kansas City, and that's really where it lies. The running backs get pretty ugly pretty early this week with all those teams on bye weeks. So for Dontrell Hilliard, it comes down to, hey, he could be in there going for an end zone touchdown, maybe get involved in the passing attack. Who knows? The sky is the limit when you're playing against Kansas City as far as how many points they'll put on you, which just means all the more opportunities for you to get back on offense. So I like Dontrell Hilliard to a certain extent with some of that upside potential this week in that matchup. Then Isaiah Pacheco, I have at 34, so I have him 5 spots behind the ECR, which is at 39. Tennessee's really, really good against the run, but Isaiah Pacheco is supposed to be the RB1. So in my projections, I'll look at how I think they pretty much split. They were co-starters in their first start as Isaiah Pacheco being the RB1, the starter there. So we'll see what the projections look like on there, but Isaiah Pacheco deserves to be higher up and closer to Clyde Edwards-Helaire than anything. If not above him, we'll see. But I think in this matchup, I will probably lean in favor of Clyde Edwards-Helaire just because I do believe he is more, they'll trust him in the receiving game, and obviously Tennessee's really good against the rushing attack, so they might lean on that a little bit, especially if they're struggling on offense and can't go to the ground attack at any point. Last up for the RB3s here that I'm going to talk about is Darrell Henderson, who I have 6 spots behind the ECR. The ECR is 29. I have him at 35, maybe a little bit too far back, maybe, but definitely not if the Rams, if Kyren Williams comes back. We saw Ronnie Rivers get the RB1 role last week, who I don't believe made it into these projections. Maybe he was in the RB2s there and snuck in there, but I don't think so. So a lot of concerns for Darrell Henderson's usage going forward. I don't recall how much there was last weekend. I don't think a whole lot. Going up against Tampa Bay, they're not a plus matchup in the running game. And a lot of concerns there. So I do expect him to probably move even further back before all of my rankings are set. 6 spots behind the ECR already. Now on to the RB4s. Starting at running back 37, I have Rachaad White, followed by Alexander Mattison, Kenneth Gainwell, James Robinson, Rex Burkhead, Samaje Perine, J.D. McKissic, Boston Scott, James Cook, Justice Hill, and JaMycal Hasty. These ECR rankings were from before the Nyheim Hines trade. I would have probably had James Cook up a little bit more. I don't know exactly how I will end up looking with those, but I just wanted to point that out at least right here. Now, let's just quick talk about James Robinson before wrapping this up, who I have 10 spots behind the ECR. I have him ranked 40th. The ECR is 30 on James Robinson. Going up against Buffalo, once again, not a great matchup. And in not a great matchup, I'm going to lean towards Michael Carter. I think, once again, he will be the guy who gets the targets in the passing game compared to J-Rob, who I think is the north and south running the bully, who they should not be able to rely on for too long in this game against Buffalo. So I would expect his usage to fade out as the game goes along. Don't love the second running back on the New York Jets against Buffalo this week. That simple. Kenneth Gainwell could be an interesting, definitely like DFS type play. Going up against Houston, they could get up quite big and might have like a fourth quarter where Kenneth Gainwell and or Boston Scott are doing some running. So that is it for the running back rankings. Once again, up on the website, www.theFFforge.com as of tomorrow on Thursday. Around noon is my target for that. Thank you very much. You have a wonderful rest of your day. In about 2 hours, the wide receiver video should be coming up. Bye.